So Tim, how you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you. How are you?
I'm doing good. And do you see Clint Hubbard there on the screen with you too?
Let me see. I do see Clint. Hi, Clint.
Hey, Tim, how are you? Thanks
Good
for
to see
joining
you.
us.
Yeah,
Yeah,
my
good,
pleasure.
good to
My
see you.
pleasure.
I feel like I know you.
Uh, I've been with you guys enough. I feel like I think I went to VMI. I may actually start saying that if I could just get some kind of an honorary degree or something. So,
Hey,
all jokes aside, my son is a junior, and I'm pushing him to look at VMI. So, like to try to get him out there in the spring to tour it and see if I can get it on his radar.
well, say the word and I'll show you around. Hopefully, if it's during the week, I'm generally one day a week I'm there, and then the weekends. But I work up in Quantico and live down there, so it's kind of a weird commute situation. But if I'm in town and you're in town, especially if it's showing a young prospect around, I'd love to do it.
Yeah, I would too. Sorry about the cat. He just insists on wanting to be part of the Zooms, so it'll
That's
probably
right.
happen a few times.
Well, that's right. I mean, so it depends on how far we want to do this. I can go back and chop. We've already kind of started this discussion, and I'll just make sure that we edit it properly so it looks like it's a normal start of things. But it's good to have just sort of free flowing information for
Yeah,
anybody who's watching who hadn't seen what we've done before. We're with the Spirit of VMI Political Action Committee, and we're basically trying to support candidates in this 2025 run for both the statewide elections in Virginia, but also for House elections in Virginia. And that's the two paradigms that are running this fall. Support candidates that would support the goodness that we know is VMI. So at the very end of this, Tim, I'm going to ask you to tell us that VMI is good. So when I prompt you, so that's a thing. I think we probably did it before too. And
yeah.
we've done this with Tim before in previous, one or two different races, but we're familiar with him. We've been in good contact with him, and so we've got kind of a short battery of questions just to catch you on videotape, so you can tell people that we know why they should support you and why we are supporting you as well. Clint, did I say that okay?
Think so. Yeah, just we're always trying to. If you remember back to 2020, VMI didn't seem like they had a lot of friends in the legislature, state government, and so that's where the Spirit of VMI PAC kind of was born from there to try to improve that situation and find like-minded individuals. I think the fact that you've got a son that at least want to get VMI in front of him tells us a whole lot right there. So, but yes, I think you said it very well, Matt.
I think that's total goodness. And I'm going to give the microphone over to Tim here in a second. But so Tim, you're running in the 97th district in Virginia Beach, right?
That's right.
So for the House of Delegates, 97th district, and against Michael Feggins, I believe is the who you're running against. What can you describe the district for me?
The district geographically is the center of Virginia Beach. So if you've ever come to Virginia Beach, Mount Trashmore town center section of Virginia Beach.
Okay.
That's the geography. Now, the importance of the district is that whoever wins this seat, that party is going to control the House of Delegates. Right now, the House is 51-49, and the most vulnerable pickup seat for Republicans is House District 97. Should we win that and nothing else changes other than House District 97 flipping, then the House would go into a 50-50 power sharing arrangement. So it's a big seat, even though it's just one of 100. This is the one that everybody's paying attention to. The Democrats are heavily defending it, and we're heavily pursuing it.
Copy that. And it's so I was reading somewhere some of your campaign priorities, and we'll talk about those in a second. But I think one of them is oriented on the military and veteran status and what veterans have to do. And that so your district would then, if I remember, Mount Trashmore and Oceana Naval Air Station and the other I mean, you're full of military arenas in that area. But so those are all in your. So Oceana, Dam Neck, are those in your district?
So Oceana is the outskirts of the district. Obviously, the military base isn't, a contributing factor of the district. Dam Neck is outside, and uh, Norfolk Naval and Little Creek are on the other side. So we're not. We don't actually have any military bases actually in the 97th district, but it's right in the middle of the center of the world when it comes to the Navy.
Yeah, and that's
And
where
the
people
bases.
live.
That's
I
right.
mean, so, there's a few people. Well, there are families, and there are troops that live on the air station and the bases, but predominantly they live out on the economy, and that's in your district and some neighboring districts as well. So, how do you think it's going?
Well, so we're in a true 50-50 district as the lines are drawn. And so the district is drawn up of about 35% Republicans and about 35% Democrats. And then the rest of it is independents. And it's a bizarre district. District that went with Glenn Youngkin, and then also went for Kamala Harris just last year. Last year, the district went 9 points for Kamala Harris as president, but then we also at the same time elected a Republican mayor who was in a three-way fight with two other Republicans and a Democrat, and the Republican mayor still won by like 65%. So it's a unique district where independents are not just voting party line. There's not many of these left in the Commonwealth. Almost everybody just votes Republican or Democrat, and whichever team has more people winning is who wins the district. But here, people are going to vote for Abigail Spanberger, and they're going to vote for Tim Anderson. They're going to vote for Abigail Spanberger, and they're going to vote for Jason Mieres. It's just how this district is, and so that makes it extremely competitive. And you really can't predict with any certainty the ballots that are coming in. If they're Democrat propensity, liberal propensity ballots, those ballots could have Tim Anderson votes on them, and same thing for the reverse. And so there's no way to know. But what I do know is that every time I go out, and I'm out all the time door knocking, I see my signs everywhere, and I don't see his signs anywhere in yards. Now, certainly the big signs are out. His campaign is functional, but nobody is putting Michael Fagan signs up in their yards, demonstrating that they're voting for them. I made lots of Abigail Spanberger signs in the district, lots of Jay Jones signs in the district, but no Michael Fagans in people's yards. And so we feel like that's a very, very good sign. And I'm a kind of a unique candidate in that I'm a lawyer and I'm a high profile lawyer and I do lots of high profile stuff. And a lot of people here know me from that, not just from being a political candidate. So I think we're in good shape. But I will say, whoever wins this is probably going to win by just a few votes. One side or the other. Michael Fagan's only won by 600 votes last time. We'll probably win by about the same amount this time. It's just one of those weird, uh, unpredictable districts where people may not like Donald Trump, but they like Jen Kiggans, and that's just how House District 97 is, and the dynamics we're playing with. But there's a lot of military retirees here. That's for sure.
So, why do you think? I'm going to ask you to boast on yourself just for a second, but so why Tim Anderson and why not Michael Fagans?
So it really goes back to the last election. So when I was in the House, we lost a seat in Virginia Beach in redistricting, and that seat was mine. They took my seat away, and so so I was either going to have to not run or run against either Karen Greenhall, who was the incumbent, or Rob Bloxham. And I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to challenge my friends in a primary just because my seat was drawn. So I didn't run. So Karen ran and she lost. And what we saw Michael Fagan do in that race is he's a retired veteran, Air Force veteran, and he really ran on, hey, I'm this nice guy, veteran. you need to vote for me. And I think, the autopsy of Karen's campaign would say that the reason that she lost is because the veterans went with her, because there's so many veterans in the district. And so we studied that, and I'm not a veteran. I did not serve. So how do you overcome that? And fortunately, we had a couple really good lucky breaks. When I was in the House, we were able to get the first $40,000 of retirement exemption of military pay exempt. So, veterans that are retired and they're getting military retirement, we got the first 40,000 exempt from Virginia state sales and income tax. And before that, veterans were paying tax on their retirement, military retirement. And so we got that first 40,000 exempt. Now, when we were doing that, Michael Fagans was posting, not as an elected official, but just on his own page, that veterans need to be paying taxes, that we should oppose eliminating taxes on military retirement. He's a veteran, he pays, it's good for everybody, it's a betterment for all mentality. Everybody should be paying taxes, oppose eliminating that. So we have him on the record with that, and he's never retracted that still to this day. And so that has really created a wedge issue where, my position is 35 other states in the country don't tax military retirement, and Virginia should be one of those 35 states, should be the 36th state with the largest military base on the East Coast and in the world for the Navy. And why are we taxing our veterans? That's the number one reason they leave. They move to North Carolina, they move to Tennessee because their taxes, they're not taxed on their retirement. So we have that as a wedge issue, and we've really been leaning into that. So then, there's some things that get discovered in the campaign. This cycle that Michael Fagans is not paying any real estate taxes on his house. So I don't know why. I don't know why, but we suspect we know why. In Virginia, you don't pay real estate taxes if you're 100% disabled veteran. But he's never said he is. So he's not paying any retirement or he's not paying any real estate taxes. At the same time, he's telling veterans to pay taxes on their retirement. And then the biggest break is we just found a tax lien, an IRS tax lien against Mr. Fagans for $80,000, where he's not paying his federal income taxes. So now you have a veteran that is saying to veterans, pay your military taxes. It's good for you. When he's not paying his real estate taxes, he's got an IRS tax lien of $80,000. And it's just hypocrisy, all boxed up into one thing. Now, look, I'm not trying to say for anybody watching this that I don't think 100% disabled veterans should not get exemptions. I think they should. But he was in the Air Force and he was a military clerk in a hospital. So I'm not exactly sure what his disability is. He's never talked about it. And if the VA thinks he's 100% disabled, that's fine. But the point is he's not really paying any taxes. He's not paying his federal taxes. He's not paying real estate taxes while he's telling veterans they should. So that's a big wedge issue. And this is a big military community. And even though I'm not a veteran, we feel like that is big a big dividing issue of why veterans can look at me and say, Tim Anderson's not a veteran, but he's better for us. And that's what we've really been leaning into. And the other big veteran issue that we have, and something that Fagans hasn't talked about support or denial of, is I'm really convinced that psilocybin mushrooms have a therapeutic purpose for PTSD, for depression. Magic mushrooms from back in the 60s, all the hippies getting high on those, right? But those mushrooms have real healing power for the brain. Oregon, Colorado, they're doing it. Veterans who are tore up in war are getting healed with psilocybin mushroom treatment in these states. It's not just masking their symptoms like the pharmaceuticals want. So I really want to get a process of getting doctors a tool, if they think it's appropriate, to be able to prescribe these restricted mushrooms for PTSD treatment, depression treatment. And so veterans are seeing that, and nothing like that's coming out of Michael Fagans.
Okay, but has he actively denied or actively countered that?
No, and we'll talk about it. He really doesn't. He doesn't talk about anything. Their entire message is fight Trump. All they want to do is fight Trump.
Right.
And for me, he won't debate. He won't get in their same room with me. He's refused to be on the stage with me and talk about issues, talk about substance. And so, it's just, it's frustrating because literally it's the Joe Biden hiding in your basement kind of campaign. And that worked well for Joe Biden, I guess. But it's frustrating that voters don't get to hear what he stands for, what he doesn't stand for. And I'm very clear where I am on things, and people may agree or disagree, but one thing's for sure is they know where I am on it.
Cool. Thanks. So I'm gonna pivot in a second to Clint and ask him to ask a couple of VMI sort of oriented questions, because half of our audience is going to be people from VMI, and trying to get them to carry the torch for you as well. So it's important for us to know that we're aligned, and we be able to, once you get into office, we can call you and find out what's going on and learn from you as much as we possibly can. But you mentioned you had a second, so the mushrooms was another issue for you. Car taxes was another, and I wanted to prompt that and see if you had any more to say about that, give you an opportunity to talk about that, and then we'll go to the VMI issues.
Yeah, so elimination of the car tax is our top line message in the campaign. And essentially what the plan is that we want to allocate $1 billion of Virginia budget surplus annually to localities. And basically, when you get your car tax bill in the mail, if your car is worth less than $40,000, $1 billion subsidy from the state would give you a complete exemption from paying car tax on every vehicle that's worth less than $40,000. If your car is worth $60,000, you're only going to pay taxes on the difference between 40 and 60. And that'll cost the state $1 billion a year. We have a multi-billion-dollar surplus annually. Glenn Young can try to get car tax relief through this year. Democrats killed it. But this year, both Abigail Spanberger and Winsome Sears are saying what I've been saying since January, which is we do need to get rid of the car tax and we need to use the budget surplus to do it. So what's really great about that is that I have both governor candidates saying my campaign words that I've been saying since January of how we're going to do this. And that's great because then it doesn't matter who wins on this issue. As long as I get into the House and Republicans have control of the House and we advance this bill, whichever governor is the governor is going to endorse it. We're going to get real tax relief. That's not. I didn't really lean into that initially because I was wrapped up about veterans, but that is our top line message. In fact, if you go to our Facebook page at Virginia Law Office, if you go to Facebook Virginia Law Office, we just published our closing commercial, and our closing commercial is just about eliminating the car tax. It's kind of a funny, quirky commercial. But that's what we feel like is the economic issue of our economy. People cannot stand this tax. It hits them in the summertime here in Virginia Beach. It hits people at Thanksgiving up in Northern Virginia. People are going crazy about this tax, and it's embarrassing when the state has such a surplus that we can't give them this relief.
Yeah, well, thanks for the explanation. And I messed you up. I tripped you up. I asked you about veterans first, and I just needed you to to explain the other one to me. But you're pretty clear about the priority of issues. So thanks for the explanation there. Clint, do you have a couple of VMI type questions?
Well, yeah, I think we've sort of covered a little bit, Tim, again, because of putting your son, putting VMI in front of your son, or at least, have him take a look at it. So that's the sort of the precursor. But as I mentioned earlier, in 2020, when the world came after us, we just didn't have VMI, not just us. The PAC wasn't even established then, but VMI just didn't have any friends in the legislature willing to stand up for us. And we took a couple of really hard shots that most of us thought were just patently unfair, and they came from one side of the aisle, and they've never walked them back, and so forth. But one of them was that they came out and just said Virginia, or that VMI is a systemically racist organization entity, place. And I took that as a personal affront. I think most of us did. So one of the questions would be, you're I'm sure familiar with that. Do you believe that VMI is systemically racist?
Well, look, here's what I think. When you're in the public square And if somebody's calling you a racist, generally that means that their argument is bankrupt. And what they're trying to do is just label you with a hateful term just to shift the argument. If you're not doing your job right, you're not you know you're if somebody's not calling you a racist, you're not doing your job right, essentially, because that's what they do. If they disagree with you, they call you a racist. They call you a Trumpian, a MAGA maniac. That's what my opponent's calling us on TV down here now. It's just what the left does, and I think people are over it, because fundamentally, if I want to post something, I don't know if you saw the issue that the African American Iowa superintendent that just got arrested, because he was illegally in the United States. I posted that, and people said, "Oh, you're a racist." It's like, no, I'm not racist. The guy was illegal in the United States, and he had a gun charge. He ran from the cops, and the school board hired him without doing a basic background check that any employer would have to do. That's not being racist just because the guy's black. And so fundamentally, no, of course, I don't think VMI is racist. I don't think any entity in and of itself is inherently racist. And so when they do that, just understand that that's just their bankrupt argument that they like to use to try to cancel and get their way. It's a bully tactic, and I hope that you all see that. I know it hurts because I've been called it many times, but fundamentally, it's just an insane thing for anybody to say.
Frankly, it makes
But
me more mad than it hurts, but
yeah, no, it really was a personal affront, I think, to most of us. But that's you see it exactly the way we see it. So thank you very much for that. The other one, the other question that we kind of ask around, I'll ask this sort of in a two-part, and then we can, you can answer it as you wish. But one of them is that we think, and I think most folks agree with us, that VMI is part of a very diverse system of higher education within Virginia. I mean, you have UVA, you've got Virginia Tech, two very different schools that are the big universities. You've got William and Mary, a state-supported school, but some people call it a mini Ivy League. You've got James Madison, you've got Radford, et cetera, et cetera. And VMI is a niche within that diverse system. So we ask for agreement. Would you agree that VMI is a unique cog in the wheel of higher education within Virginia and has a specific and has a purpose within that vast system of higher education? Would you agree that VMI has a special place there? Or
Absolutely.
unique, maybe not special, but unique.
No, absolutely. There's a long history of the value of VMI, not to the Commonwealth, but to produce future leaders in both civilian and military functions. And so, yeah, there's to say VMI doesn't have a purpose would be to say the Naval Academy doesn't have a purpose. It has a very unique mission, and I think that anybody who would say otherwise just doesn't like the school, doesn't like what it stands for.
Yeah, well, thank you. The last part of that, I guess, is that we have agreement then that VMI is a unique place within the Commonwealth of Virginia, and sort of from that, would you agree that most of our not most, would you agree that our universities function best when we don't have outside interference from political whims and fads and bullying tactics like has gone on with most recently with the Board of Visitors nominees from Governor Youngkin, and the state Senate is trying to play a lot of politics there. We think that's very un-Virginia-like, but we think it's also very detrimental to all schools, not just VMI. So I guess my question is, would you agree that most of the state-supported schools in Virginia function best when they're insulated somewhat from the political whims and mischief from the state legislators in the Senate?
So I'll answer that question. I'll spin up of why I'm going to say what I'm about to say.
Okay.
So I have a 16-year-old son, and I'm looking at colleges, and the two colleges I really want him. Well, I guess there's three. There's three colleges I'm very interested in: Liberty University, VMI, and Hampden-Sydney. And the reason that those three colleges are on the short list in my mind, of course, he doesn't know any of this at this point, is because I want to send my kid to a school to where when he goes there, he becomes a good citizen and he loves America and he doesn't think America's a bad place and he doesn't get brainwashed by a college mentality of liberal infusion of doctrine that comes out of the other schools. And all of them are like that. I mean, Virginia Tech, UVA, the amount of things that are taught and said by the professors in those schools affect these children to promote a liberal worldview. And I want my kid to go to a school that is a constitutionally conservative type of mentality. I'm not saying Republican, but that's where I want him to go to school.
Right.
And so why the Senate is messing with you is they want to put more liberal minded folks on your board to affect the way that your mission is. They want to dilute the value of what Virginia VMI is, and they want to turn it into, some type of a Radford's kind of a mentality, just a state school that's controlled by eggheads that think that, well, we can go into all the others. We can go into all the reasons of what they have if you want, but they don't want strong conservative or governing boards over your school. They want people that agree with their side, and they want to make that what VMI is. They can't get rid of VMI. They've learned that, but they can turn it into something closer to a school like this in Lexington, kind of a mentality, and that's unfortunate because our governor was elected and he has the power to appoint, and the Senate's really only supposed to say qualified or not qualified. But what they're doing is they're putting their thumb on it's not qualified or not qualified. They're saying no, their ideologies are different than ours, so therefore they're not qualified, and that's outrageous.
Yeah, thank you for that, Tim. I'm going to take this, and we're going to end this in just a second. But I wanted to ask you if you met a voter who was on the fence, or may be able to be swayed, but it really is not sure that they really want to vote in this off-cycle election. Do you have a message for that voter?
Yeah, absolutely. So for the people that we're trying to get to vote, the lower propensity voters, those voters have to be motivated. And right now, the good thing that came out of the Charlie Kirk death is that the conservatives are quite worked up right now, and they understand the importance of Charlie Kirk's message and his ability to engage the left and the youth, and they are waking up. And so those voters are a little bit more um, awake than they've had normally been. Churches and Christian voters, those voters are much more engaged right now because of the Charlie Kirk death. But as far as why the election is important, I think the most important thing to understand is that the best government is the government you don't feel. Um, Government's supposed to be there, but you're not supposed to feel it. And Governor Youngkin vetoed more bills this year than any governor in the history of the Commonwealth. And that just basically means that the Democrats, if they get full control, our Commonwealth is going to dramatically change. It's going to dramatically shift into something that looks more like California and less like what we've had in Virginia. And you will feel that. Everyone will feel that. In politics, we talk about, how do you cook a frog? You just kind of slowly turn the temperature up, and then before you know it, the frog's cooked. But it's gonna go from just lukewarm to scalding hot, and we saw that happen in 2020 when Democrats had full control, and people were, at that point worried about gun rights, and then they were, told that they couldn't work if they didn't take the COVID vaccination and all the authoritarian activities that came out during COVID. You will feel government if Democrats have full control. And what we're asking is just make sure that we have the House. Regardless of what else happens, just make sure that Republicans have the House, and this seat matters because this seat will determine who controls the House. And that's why it's just so important so that you don't feel the government dramatically changing right in front of you.
Well, I don't think I could agree any more with you than that. And you put it so articulately. I want to bottle that. I'm going to listen to it again and try to take out bits of that so I can share it. But I appreciate your time with us. I know it's campaign time. You're knocking doors. You're prepping for the next day, and I'm sure you're chasing your opponent to try to get him on the debate stage, and that may or may not be working out for you. So we'll try to promulgate this message as much as we possibly can. But what our last thing to ask you, I think, is for you to tell us that the VMI is good. It's one of the things that means something to us. It's become sort of a moniker for us. So if we can get a candidate to say that, then we feel like we can trust them.
Well, no, I think VMI is good. And not just VMI is good, VMI is great in the message. I mean, how lucky parents are in Virginia to be able to send their kids there and know that they're going to get better kids when they get back, not kids that have been lost to an anti-American mentality, but somebody who's going to come back home after education, 4 years of higher education, and be patriotic and love their country and want to be good citizens and want to be productive members. I mean, it's just a special place. And when I was in the office last time, we did all this, and I didn't ever hear from you guys because really nothing was happening once we finally got control. But obviously, things may change next year, and when I'm in there, because I'm going to win. But when I'm in there, you guys will always have an ally, and when you call, I'll answer.
Well, that's perfect. And you and I've maintained sort of a once in a while connection, just sort of a drip to make sure that you or I am alive and that we're kind of kept paying attention. And I really appreciate that. And I think that will become important when you win and we're able to maintain some sort of understanding and working agreement with people who work for you and or with and around you. So you get our and Clint, add in here what you'd like to say, but you get my full endorsement. Over to you, Clint.
Yeah, no, absolutely, Tim. That was a magnificent answer. Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. All right, guys, call me anytime, and if you need anything, you know how to get a hold of me. All right.
Okay. Thanks a lot.
Absolutely.